Morning, Midland, Texas. Buddy Webb here. Today, I want to go over all the rape and murder of the young girl at the 2010 Old Show party. It's something I've talked about many, many times over on my Facebook uh, in the videos. I've got older videos that I made. One called "Rape and Murder" had tens of thousands of views on it, and told that story. But it's really important. I think it's core to the crimes that are going on here. And there's new evidence that's come out even recently. And so I created a Facebook post earlier this morning, and then I use it as a guide, and we'll go over and talk about that. Right on top of my Facebook this morning was somebody, I just shared it. Somebody in Andrews posted this picture of these two young girls that were sixth grade girls that showed up on somebody's porch this morning and been walking in the middle of the night. That looks like it's Andrews, Texas. I don't have any information on that, uh, but it's a concern for sure. Okay, and so here I'm gonna read to you. This isn't long. She told me, this was my friend. She told me that these two older guys approached her at Michael's. That's a hamburger joint down by Claydesta, and told her that she was going to work each night of the 2010 Oil Show. This was forced prostitution, and she didn't have a choice. After work, we would leave Claydesta and drive to my home, and a few minutes later, she would leave to go to the party. We talked on the phone while she drove, and in 5 minutes, she was there. She was there at the Old Show party, leaving my home. So I knew the party was within 5 minutes of my house. Okay, and people that don't know, Claydesta is like a business center here in town that was built by Clayton Williams, the famous multimillionaire run for governor oil man. Okay, and so anyways, my guess is that she was driving to Home Depot and parking there before going underground and coming back this way via a tunnel, with the party being held in the 3-bedroom underground homes that I was told about on the recorded phone call. So I'm just putting together the different pieces of evidence, and then that's what it looks like was going on back then. Okay. The call logs for my phone number, 432-209-6494, that was a company cell phone, will show that we were on the phone each night of the 2010 Oil Show, and at 11 p.m. she would tell me to wait while she left to get her pill. Okay, they were systematically drugging the women that had been told they were going to work this week, and I'm sure it was a lot of them at this party. Okay, that was the sex slavers at this Oil Show party. This pill would make her sleepy, and we would get off the phone around midnight. My understanding is that she would be woken up by men a little while later. At break time one day, and this was at work because we worked together in the same building, I overheard a female landman, that was an oilfield landman, we called him right-of-way agent, that I worked with, ask her what time she got home the night before, and she said about 3 a.m. This told me that landman was there. I gave law enforcement the name of this person, as I believe she was at the same party, which makes her a witness to the same murder. There was a safety guy that worked in our building named Carl, who worked in our same building. Claydesta 10 is the Twin Towers, the ones we worked in. And at break, he rudely comes up to her and says, "This was me standing there. I got mine last night." She cowered in shame, and it was obvious that he was a paying customer of the sex slavers at the Oil Show prostitution party. I also gave his name to law enforcement. So I believe that he's a witness to the murder of this little girl. Before work each day of this week, she would stop by my home, and one morning there was a news story about a train wreck that she's interested in. This is when she tells me about the young girl that didn't want to prostitute and didn't wake up. They had murdered that girl. I tried to get her to report this murder to police, but she was afraid and said that high-level police were at the party. I then got a call from a Midland Police Officer who threatened to arrest me if I spoke with her again. Obviously, that was one of the police at the party, which she was afraid of, and all we need to do is check the call records to find out who it was. Maybe even the Midland Police Department has a record of which police officer called and threatened me right after the 2010 Oil Show party. I tried to report this murder to the police myself, but I was told there was nobody to talk to me, and I was given a phone number of a detective that never called me back. I later told the ex-wife about this, and she told me that the pill was an antidepressant. I believe it was a benzodrine, or whatever they call them. It was obvious how she knew this detail, and I suspect was at the same parties. I'm sure this happened more than just at the 2010 Oil Show. Those parties are infamous, and that is the Permian Basin International Oil Show. It brings tens of thousands of people to town from around the world, and of course you can imagine they're very wealthy people, and I'll link to the oil field. And these parties are famous. I'm going to show you that here in a minute. In 2013, the remains of a young girl that was 14 to 21 years old was found outside of Midland. That's 2013. So in late 2010 is when I was told about the young girl being murdered, and then they find remains in in 2013. I suspect that is who was the girl that was murdered. Okay, so this was my Facebook post. At 11 p.m., she went to get her pill. They were systematically drugging the women at the old party. It was do it or die. Okay, and then that little girl had a choice, right? I mean, you know, she either prostitutes or they murder her. See, you know, that's what these sex slavers, these sex traffickers do to these little girls. You know, they're going to give you a choice. You know, you either do it or we murder you. Okay. Here we go. And I'm going to start at the top. This is the Claydesta 10 building that we all worked in, which would be myself, my friend, Carl, the safety guy. He worked for another company, and the female contract landman that worked for my company, DCP Midstream. And you can see these are the twin towers at the Claydesta Plaza. And DCP Midstream was my company, and I was in it. And my friend that was the witness was worked for another company in there. Okay. The Home Depot store is directly behind my home, and it would take about 5 minutes to get there from here. This is where I believe my friend was going when she left my home. As you can see in the picture, the ground looks like a large tunnel ditch was cut coming directly toward my home. It would also provide parking for the large amount of people believed to be at the oil show parties. A clerk told me one day, if you see a lot of cars in the parking lot late at night, then it's because we're stalking. She just blurted this out, and I took it as a clue. Obviously, they had a lot of cars in the parking lot for her to tell me this without being asked. I'm going to show you. This is a Google Earth picture, okay? And this right down here is my home, and it shows the location of my home that I'm shot. Somebody under my home shoots me, okay, 2 weeks after I reported a suspected tunnel to the DEA. Now, look at the asphalt behind the Home Depot store going directly to my house, and it's real easy to tell that it's been cut right there. It looks like a ditch was cut, large tunnel ditch was cut coming directly behind my house. Okay, and if you've seen a recent video, they were back there tearing up the ground and pouring concrete because, see, I was back there behind Home Depot showing Homeland Security all this area on July 2nd of this year. Okay, here's the large parking lot in front. Now remember, if you got a large amount of people there, then they got to have a lot of parking. And a couple weeks after I got out of the hospital, the ex-wife comes by my house and she says, "You don't know how many lives you ruined with your idiocy." Well, that my idiocy was staying home minding my own business. My idiocy was calling law enforcement and saying I'm having crimes committed against me. I'm a homeowner, 28-year company man. That was my idiocy. But what she said was a lot of people were there. Well, if a lot of people were there, where would a lot of people park? Do you see what I'm saying? And then remember that wasn't the 2010 oil show party. That was on January 28, 2012, the night that I was ambushed and shot. Okay, this Google Earth, you can, if you get Google Earth, download it, you can get the historical maps. This one's dated in June 2011. I was ambushed and shot in January 2012. Okay, and so I'm going to show you that picture there. Ricky Ronaldo used to live in my house, and he told me that him and his brother would go in the tunnels under this home. I used to live in your home when I was a kid. There are tunnels under the home, and my brother would always go down there. So, you know, when people go, well, you hadn't showed a picture of a tunnel, how do you know, that you don't have no proof? Well, bull crap. You know, I posted this other day. If you come outside and you see snow on the ground, do you have to see it fall from the sky to know where it come from? Well, if you're shot from 2 inches above ground 2 weeks after reporting a tunnel to the DEA, triple proof shows you wasn't shot with your gun, and Ricky's saying he was in tunnels under your house. Do you need to see a picture of a tunnel to know tunnels are here? No, it's obvious. Okay, Rhonda Denman Rogers, okay? This was a message. I said, there's an underground facility somewhere near my home. She says, I know, it's a half block away, okay? Interesting. Okay, I secretly recorded this phone call where a woman's telling me there are 4 3-bedroom homes that are 25 foot deep, each cost over $1 million. This is where I suspect the oil show parties were going at and where the young girl was murdered at. And so this is just a clip of a longer video called $1 Million Underground Facility. It's on my YouTube channel. It's you know, y'all listen to it. There's other clues. I got a feeling it was put in by some wealthy oil man, oil people or whatever. And
he was talking about, it was not 1 million, it was actually 4, and they're actually homes.
That are underground?
3-bedroom, yes, they're 3-bedroom homes.
Well, I'm sitting right on top of it too, you know, that's the other side of it. You know, I'm trying to think when you talk about,
yes,
you know.
You're right near a draw, right?
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah, it is pretty close to a draw.
He even knew things like this. I'm like, this is too crazy. This is too much.
I did a Facebook post recently called Bunkers. And it was something that I noticed that was brought up in court by the district attorney and even my attorney. They used that term bunkers, and they used it like 4 different times. Well, I had never even thought of bunkers, and I had never used the word bunker or even said bunkers.
Yeah.
But they're sitting there calling it bunkers, and which I'm thinking they already knew what it was. You know what I mean? That these are bunkers.
I see.
And that's why they 3 underground.
4.
Oh, 4 underground
4.
houses or whatever. And
Yes. What's each of? They're all in total $4 million.
for me, and see, that's what the first.
I asked them about the pizza parties. They said they're not called pizza parties, but I know what you're talking about.
Right, the pedophile parties.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
and see, a couple of weeks, you probably read all this before, but a couple of weeks after I got out of the hospital, that ex-wife comes by my home, and she says, "You don't know how many." Okay, and I already told that story. So anyway, that video is a little longer. You can go watch that. But, you know, multiple people have told me there's an underground facility near this house, and we put it all together. That's where I believe the young girl was murdered at. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. If one of the 4 underground homes is on my property, then where are the other 3, right? One guess is a home around the corner on Westmont Court. It has a large empty lot next to it, and this home had the same mortar problem that my home did. I was told that the mortar problem came from a foundation problem, as in somebody dug under the home. Okay, this home is owned by a safety guy that works for Concho, and Concho's a big oil company here. If that is right, then that still leaves 2 other homes, 2 other ones somewhere. Okay, and so here's another Google Earth map picture, but it's a little bit bigger because there's the Home Depot store, the parking lot. You see the secluded trucking lane, what looks like the ditches cut coming direct to my house, where I was ambushed and shot. Everything I already showed you. But over here around the corner, because that's my cul-de-sac, on Westmont Court, on this home with the pool, okay, is a home that had the exact same mortar problem as my home. And mortar, you know, goes between the brick on the outside of the wall. And it basically, what they did was whitewash it. So if you ever drive down here, you can see that they covered up the original brick with a whitewash on the whole house. And the reason they did it is because it had a mortar problem. When I first moved in, it was real obvious. And mine, I had mine tipped, is what it was called. I paid a lot of money for some masons to tip mine to fix that mortar problem. And so possibly, and here's a big lot that's over here, you know, and even if you remember, Rhonda Denman Rogers says, "Oh, underground facilities a half block away." I even wonder maybe this was it, you know. So maybe there's a connection from over here to over there, etc. You'll also see here in a minute in my backyard right here, Google Maps is going to show some facility in my backyard that's not there. That's what I'm guessing is one of the 4 3-bedroom underground homes. Now, keep in mind, 25 foot deep's a long ways. You know, I can't imagine how many people. I don't know why you haven't been digging. I don't know why you haven't showed us. Well, I mean, you know, they have a dozen secret police that stayed secret for 6 years. I'm disabled and defenseless. Okay, these are armed and dangerous criminals that suspected of murdering multiple people. You know, and I've already proved. A capital attempted murder. And what I've told many people, this is not a capital attempted tunnel case. This is a capital attempted murder case. You know, that's what law enforcement do. It should be real easy to find the tunnel, and we don't even have to dig. You got a dozen police that stayed secret for 6 years, you know. Yeah, and doctors faked x-rays. Yeah, you got all kinds of people you can ask. You know, all these people that told me that it was here. Moving on December 13, 2014, I posted a story to my Facebook called Rape and Murder. It was about this young girl that was murdered at the 2010 oil show party. And 2 days later, on December 15, 2014, Midland K-9 police officer Chad Simpson murders his wife and kills himself. Due to the timing, some people have asked if Chad was at the 2010 oil show party when the girl was murdered, and or was he the police officer that called and threatened me back right after the oil show party. Remember, I got threatened, you know, to not talk to my friend again. Okay, in May 2018, we found out from Empire Private Investigations that he was one of the secret police that had been caught on camera at my house after the murder attempt on my life, but managed to stay hidden for 6 years. Okay, so this cop that murdered his wife, here's the wife, Sandra Simpson. And so he takes his gun, he kills her and kills himself. 2 days after I'm on Facebook and I post this story about this girl being murdered at this oil show party. Same story I'm talking about today. And I post a picture of a secret police in my house. Now remember, I had no police report, so officially they wasn't police. They were just criminals in cop costumes. I believe they were corrupt police, but it wasn't until 2018 when Empire Pride Investigations named them that we go, oh, they are police, and we figured out that one of them was Chad Simpson, the same guy that murdered Sandra Simpson. Even more interesting, they're from my hometown of Hobbs, New Mexico, and so I feel real strong that there's connection there with Chad Simpson. Okay, and the oil show parties. Okay, and interestingly, I emailed former Governor Rick Perry, Texas governor, who is now Secretary of Energy. Donald Trump signed him that job, and former Texas Attorney General Greg Abbott, who is now governor of Texas. The rape and murder story, the one that I read earlier, before Chad murdered Sandra and killed himself. And you're going to see the date on that on December 14, 2014. Governor, Attorney General, Texas Rangers, and here's the story. Okay, and here's the news from the news right at the day. We see information, that Chad murdered Sandra, etc. And so all this time, Rick Perry and Greg Abbott and the Texas Rangers, they got a heads up on this before Chad went and murdered Sandra. Some people are asking, did y'all do anything? Is there any record that you did an investigation before that police officer went and murdered his wife? Would Sandra be alive? And so that's a big deal. But, a lot of people think that ought to be a news story in itself. Okay. And here's some videos that I made. A month ago, on May 28th, I met with Homeland Security and gave them this evidence packet, which contained information on this murder and about a dozen other murders. And I highly encourage you to go look at that evidence provided to Homeland, okay? Because I met them on May 28th at the Hobbs Police Department, and then Paul called me. He was a Homeland Security agent and asked, he was going to come by my house first, and postponed it at the last minute. That was the day that Mike Pence turned around in the air and flew back to Washington mysteriously. And then later that afternoon, he texted me and wanted me to meet him at Home Depot. So I showed him that exact location where I thought the ditch was dug. And, and then amazingly, 2 weeks later, they're digging it up, pouring concrete, right where I was with Homeland Security. The exact same location I showed him where I suspected a tunnel was. I showed you on the map pictures and everything. And here they were pouring concrete. It was really amazing. And I text him and said, hey, they're pouring concrete right here where I showed you where I believe the tunnel was, or the murder tunnel where they murder little girls at.
This is right next to Home Depot, and where this big gate is. I can't tell you how many people have mentioned this storage center to me, because my home is like right there. It's right there where them trees are. You can see the infamous trees. But anyways, while I'm here, I think I'll take a picture here. This is where they're doing the concrete work.
Look at there, you can see the concrete coming off the truck.
And see, I was just there.
My home is right there.
Homeland Security agent showing me where I suspected the tunnel entrance was,
and I'm telling the story that was right where I was at 2 weeks earlier with Homeland Security, and so let's say, what if there's a tunnel, if all this is correct, and that was part of the cover up, then, that'd be tampering with evidence, obstruction of justice, and capital murder. Oh, they'd be huge. Don't everybody agree with that? Can't we all agree with that? Okay. And then the remains of a young girl between 14 and 21 were found outside of Midland in 2013. What do you want to bet it's the girl that my friend told me about who was murdered at the oil show party? Okay. And so right now there's remains found and nobody knows who they are. And this was in 2013. And my friend was telling me a young girl was murdered in 2010. Well, I believe this is the young girl right here. I sent information here. Right now, there's our sheriff died, Painter, and there's a couple guys that are running for sheriff. One is McKinney, Roy McKinney. A lot of people that want to see Roy, and I sent him information on this young girl being murdered, this oil show party, and all this, and he never replied. There's another guy that I want to contact that's also running for sheriff because you can see that says Midland County Sheriff's Office investigating. And when I talked to FBI just a couple weeks ago, it was like, oh, that's the sheriff, or I'm not going to do that. It's always somebody else's problem. Homeland says, if it has murder, it's not our problem. And they're the ones that sent me to the FBI. So I go to the FBI. Oh, it's not my problem. That's the sheriff, and nobody, it ain't nobody's problem, And here you got multiple murders, and nobody's problem. Okay, let's don't forget that 2 weeks after reporting a suspected tunnel to the DEA in January 2012, my phone records will prove that, I was ambushed and shot by somebody under my home. Triple proof shows that I wasn't shot by my gun, so that means somebody came to my home and shot me. By definition, that's called capital attempted murder. I was home minding my own business, and now I'm crippled for life and living under a death threat, and I got all these people trying to talk me into moving, okay, and break into my home, terrorizing me, death threats, etc., okay. And so here's another video link that shows the proof of the triple proof of the capital murder in my life. Now keep in mind, though, the young girl's murdered in 2010, I find out about it, and then in 2012 I'm shot. Now, and remember, them secret police were caught on camera. The camera they tried to disable. They never planned on getting caught, but then they got caught, so then they were secret for 6 years. So now we know who they are, but it's nobody's problem. Nothing's being done, okay? But what do you want to bet that the secret police caught in my house were some of the same secret police or some of the same police that my friend was afraid to and that's why that was at the party, and that's why she's afraid to report the murder of that little girl. Okay. Next one. Many people believe that the same people that tried to murder me also murdered the young girl, and they murdered Michael on before that. He was the 27-year-old previous homeowner in my home. Okay, suspected murder of Michael on. Now, I bought this home in 2008. The previous homeowner, a young guy, 27, dies 2 weeks before I buy the home. They tell me it's an accident. And then after all the crimes against me, I do the research. I'm going, this wasn't no accident. He's murdered. My neighbor lived directly across the street. Marilyn Deluge told me twice he died in my house, and his death certificate says he died in Fort Worth. The Odessa American posted a death notice saying he died in Fort Worth. 4 days later, they changed the location of death, posted a second death notice, and said he died in Midland. So it's pretty clear to me they murdered Mike Lawhon, sold the house to the next sucker, which would be me, and then when I figured out it was rigged for racketeering and contacted law enforcement, then they set me up to kill me. Okay, in a nutshell, that's what happened. Okay, here's a guy. He's a local Mason in town. Aaron Peckelhofer asked me if I knew the names of the 4 people murdered died in my home. I didn't know, but I bet he does. It looks like I was supposed to be the 5th. Okay, so here it is, Aaron Peckelhofer. I wish you luck, all that. If I can ask, there were 4 people who were murdered in your house. What are their names? Okay, and so notice that he puts a question mark out of that. So you get all these deniers, the excuse makers, people trying to cover up these multiple murders, and them going, oh, that was a question. That ain't no question. He was specific. He didn't say 3. He didn't say 2. He didn't say 8. He said 4. It was a statement. It's a grammar error is what it is. Okay, he knows 4 people were murdered, died in my house, asking me if they know their names. I don't know their names, but obviously Aaron Peckelhofer does. Okay. And then we have a neighbor that used to live across the street, Marilyn Deluge, told me twice Michael Lawhon died in my house. But she also said that somebody else died here before him. I wondered if that was the still missing man, Rini Escobar Sanchez. He was reported missing from Odessa 3 months before Michael Lawhon died, and I transferred into town. Now keep in mind that Peckelhofer said that 4 people died in my house, so maybe this is one of the guys. He's still missing. There's a story you ought to go watch there with some clues. I think multiple murders could be solved if we could find legitimate law enforcement. Okay, and here's another video link. An oilfield landman named Keith Turman said something, and this is on a recorded phone call in the Dr. Stalker video. He said something about 13-year-old Haley Dunn, she's the famous missing murdered child, being at the 2010 oil show party, and that would make sense because her mom was a stripper in the area at the time. On March 14, 2013, I wrote the Department of Justice and suggested they look in the underground facility here for clues about her, and 2 days later, her remains were found in Scurry County. Now more than a half dozen people are documented saying that Haley was killed and or buried in Odessa, which is Ector County. It looks like Haley Dunn was dug up and moved as a result of my email and is also connected with the infamous 2010 oil show party where the other girl was murdered. Most people can't understand why no arrests have been made in this case. This is just, this is a famous case, made national news, and millions of people know who Haley Dunn is. 13-year-old Colorado City, Texas cheerleader, right? She's found 2 days after I suggest that they look in the underground facility here, and so there's another video to watch. And then recently a friend suggested that I look at maps.google.com for my address, and I was blown away when I seen there's a large facility in my backyard which can't be seen from above ground. Google historical pictures doesn't show anything. That was the location, that was in the location such as a concrete slab pool. See, I've had people, the deniers, the excuse makers, people trying to cover up multiple murders and everything. They always kind of come up with an excuse. And they're going, well, was that a pool? Was there a storage facility there? No, there wasn't. Okay, so this is my house. There's where I'm shot. And in my backyard there is this large facility. Google Maps is showing this. Okay, well, that ain't there. You can't see that from above ground. But remember, I've got somebody telling me there's four 3-bedroom underground homes cost $1 million, and maybe this is one. And what's not seen on here is that what looks like a big ditch coming over directly at my house from the Home Depot store. Okay. And this is a story that a friend shared with me about a brutal rape that occurred at an oil show party a few years back. And so basically it was these oil show parties are famous. And Victoria McKinney from Hobbs, New Mexico, I've known her a long time, and says, I know someone that was brutally raped at the show years ago. That was enough for me to stay away. And she says it happened about 16 years ago. She was in oil field sales, etc. These wild parties are famous. Everybody from this area knows about this. Jessica Lee Hadley told me there's more than one that was murdered or raped because she didn't want to do what they wanted her to do. She confirmed that some corrupt police were involved, and when that happens, then we have nowhere to turn. And then that's been the problem, okay? And here I'm telling her about, I've told a young girl murdered at the oil show party. She says, I've been to lots of oil shows, 2,000, she says, of course, exaggeration, more than just one that was murdered or raped because she didn't want to do whatever they want her to do. And then she names I don't know if it's a deputy or a police officer over in Odessa, Joe Commander, and tells a story about her threats to have her children taken away, and basically she's saying that's common. I think she also talked about where they're drugging them and they're filming them and blackmail, and that was in the bigger story. And then so I go to try to report this, even when I was at the FBI the other day, then my credibility is attacked. Oh, he thinks people's breaking into his house. Well, people are breaking in my house, He thinks people get in his attic. Well, people are getting in my attic, And I put a vivid alarm system. It goes off. I've had over 100 videos of alarms going off. I had people at my home with alarms going off in my attic. I saw a person in my attic. I was shot with burglar alarms going in my attic. Wasn't shot with my gun, But more than that, I've got people all over Midland, Odessa that are reporting people in the attic. Now, a lot of these right off my police scanner, where homeowner called and reported somebody in the attic. I've talked to 2 of them homeowners. I'm absolutely 100% positive they're telling the truth. And then more than that, it's happening across Texas and many other states. There's a video called "Invasion of Homes Across America" I made, and I just put a list because people are writing me going, it's happening here, it's happening there, all kinds of stories. You ought to see this video. So they're attacking my credibility, and as far as I'm concerned, they're doing it so they can cover up the murder of this little 14-year-old to 21-year-old girl, and the murder of Mike Lawhon, the murder of Irene Escobar Sanchez, the capital attempted murder of my life, and who knows how many other people, okay? And so it's not acceptable. It should be real obvious to any legitimate law enforcement officer with all this evidence that this is the real deal. And we need people to come forward, and stop this. It's not right.